There is a virus called ID7 or red eye that is spreading around the world. This virus increases stress hormone levels, blocks neural pathways, and reduces inhibitions. It causes people to act impulsively, motivating them to do naughty or violent things without any regard for the world around them. The first reported case of ID7 occurred 18 months ago in Iowa when a person killed a coworker by repeatedly stabbing him in the face. Since then, more than 1,000 outbreaks have been detected around the world, but health authorities promise that mandatory quarantine measures will eliminate the virus by the end of the year. It was discovered that the virus does not kill people, but infected or redder people do. As the virus causes people to lose control, Derek becomes the first lawyer to use ID7 as an argument to save an infected client from prison after murdering a colleague. When Derek joined a law firm, he had ideals and hopes for the future. However, the harsh work environment forces him to become another dishonest lawyer to survive and climb the corporate ladder. His viral tactic to win a murder case got him a pretty good promotion, but he lost everything. One morning, Derek arrived at the office and noticed Oswald scolding the receptionist. Derek quickly intervenes and reveals that he has a video of Oswald getting dirty with coworkers at the company's last Christmas party, threatening to show it to Oswald's wife if he doesn't let the receptionist calm down. Static. Oswald was truly humiliated and left. Derek then goes to his office and becomes angry when he discovers his favorite mug is missing. He then asked his assistant to find her. Instead, his assistant told him he had an important call. Derek answers the phone and gets even angrier when he hears his sister wants Derek to come to her birthday and reminds him of his hobby of painting. Derek refuses both, saying unapologetically that his job is more important. Later, Derek has a meeting with Melanie, a customer who needs a loan extension to pay off her overdue debt. Unfortunately, the person in charge of Melanie's case is Irin, one of the firm's partners. Derek has no chance to influence these decisions and instead calls security to escort Melanie. After Melanie leaves, Derek drinks the water, unaware that the virus is now infecting him. Moments later, the receptionist tells Derek that their boss John and his right-hand woman Kara said that Derek ruined the deal with Vanda Corporation. This made Derek angry because Vanda Corp was not his customer, so he rushed to find an explanation. Meanwhile, Oswald continues to check on the receptionist, Jenny, while scratching his red eyes. Derek enters the elevator and asks for the access code to see Kara, the CEO. Everyone calls her the mermaid because she has found her way into John's ear. When he reaches his office, Derek is even angrier to find that Kara has taken his mug. Derek accuses Kara of tricking him into taking responsibility for her, but Kara pulls out a file that proves Vanda Corp is his client. They couldn't agree, so they decided to ask John, insulting each other throughout the elevator ride. At John's office, Derek explains the problem and points out that the same thing happens every time Kara fails a case, so she should be fired because she is the common denominator. John finds Derek's perspective interesting and asks him to wait outside while he talks to Kara. Losing hope, Derek goes to see his friend and colleague Ewan, who thinks Derek has made things worse by going to John instead of coming up with a plan. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by Kara, who tells Derek that he has been fired. Derek's anger grew, especially when he learned Kara had done stupid things to John to keep him by her side. He announced that he would take his case to the council, also known as the Nine, and reclaim his cup, but Kara taunted him by rubbing his red eyes. Soon after, the board of directors officially fires Derek, and Derek receives a visit from Human Resources Director Lester, also known as the Reaper. He asks Derek to sign a document stating that he is responsible for the Vanda Corp case, offering a huge additional sum of money as severance pay. While rubbing his red eyes, Derek rejected the offer because it would ruin his career and he might even lose his law degree. Lester doesn't care at all and quickly calls security to escort Derek out. At that time, CDC agents and a SWAT team surrounded the building, announcing that the business was now quarantined because the virus had been detected inside. Derek watched as people began to panic in the hallway while the board spoke with the CDC team leader, who explained that they would release a neutralizing agent into the building's ventilation system to removes the virus in 8 hours. The leader reminded them that everyone had to do their best to stay calm or things would get violent very quickly. However, the board's main concern was that their employees would not work 8 hours, and that would cost them money. John angrily slammed his golf club on the table and announced that anyone who tried to avoid the job would be fired. Below, Oswald's frustration was quickly reinforced by the virus, and he attacks Derek, who also quickly loses it and stabs Oswald in the leg before starting to beat him. Ewan rushes over to calm him down, and after Derek punches another random guy, Ewan pushes him against the wall and advises him to hide in his office until the virus goes away. Lost. Derek pretended to agree, but as soon as Ewan turned around, Derek ran towards the elevator, ignoring all the chaos that was forming in every corner of the office. It had only been a few minutes, but people were already getting extremely violent and screaming over the stupidest things. Derek asked the elevator operator to take him to the board office, but the operator received strict orders and gave him another code. Suddenly, Derek is dropped onto an abandoned floor and found by John's team of henchmen led by Colton, also known as the Bull. Colton takes Derek's phone and punches him a few calls before calling John. He mocks Derek when he says he just wants his job back. As Colton continues to beat Derek and throw pepper spray at him, Ewan comes to his friend's aid, attacking Colton's henchmen. However, they are trained security guards and Ewan is just a victim. Office worker, so he was killed when he was pushed against a wall and his head was nailed to a nail. John doesn't mind this because everything that happens in the office in the next 8 hours can be blamed on the virus and therefore they can't be arrested for it. Derek tries to mourn Ewan's death, but Colton punches him and knocks him unconscious. Moments later, Derek wakes up and sees Melanie, who is still angry at him for not helping her. They start spitting on each other and it quickly turns into full-blown brawls. But after some damage, Derek realizes that they should really team up against the company because cause some harm to both. Melanie agrees, so Derek takes a bunch of old, broken phones and pieces them together to call Frank. The CEO of Vanda Corporation. Frank also asked the board to join the call, including John, who was busy consuming happiness powder. Derek informs Frank of all the ways his colleagues mishandled the Vanda Corp case, clearing his name. Frank is angry that John cheated him and decides that his company will no longer need his services, which is a big deal because Vanda is their biggest customer. John angrily orders his henchmen to kill Derek. When the two men reach the abandoned floor, Melanie distracts them so Derek can attack them from behind, channeling all the frustration he has pent up for years into her blows until the man died. Derek then takes their keys to open the tool shed so he and Melanie can arm themselves. The duo wants to get on the board to get revenge, but they will need a high-level keycard because the elevator operator didn't give out the password. In his office, Lester tries to control his emotions by taking care of his bonsai, but he ends up destroying the poor creature. He's had enough screaming and leaves the office just as Melanie nails him. Lester grabbed him with his stick and ran into his office, holding the door closed against Derek's pushes. Just then, two guards arrive and task Melanie, so Derek throws a card at them and runs away. While Derek sneaks away to avoid his violent co-workers, Lester comes out and starts hitting Melanie with a stick. Finally, Derek surprised a guard from behind, stabbing him with a screwdriver. He then blocked the taser with a folder and stabbed the remaining guard as well. At that moment, Melanie kicks him with a nail gun and Derek shoots Lester, who quickly hides in his office again. The duo burst in and demanded access cards, threatening to kill Lester if he did not cooperate. Lester places the access card on his desk, and when Derek reaches out to grab it, Lester pierces his hand with a pair of scissors to pin him to the desk before pinning Melanie to the ground. The other workers gather in front of the door and begin betting while they watch Lester try to kill Melanie with a nail gun, who has difficulty avoiding the nails. Derek reminds her that she also has a chainsaw and Melanie immediately uses it to attack Lester, killing him. Melanie then removes the scissors to free Derek and shoots the people at the door to clear the way. Then Derek prints some files and is filmed by Melanie while he reads the technique he used in his old case to make the virus justify certain actions intended, ending his speech by lighting the fire. This video was sent to the board of directors to warn them that he would come for them without fear of consequences. A frightened John called Kara and asked her to cancel his keycard, but she refused because it was her leverage. However, she quickly agreed when John promised to become her partner. After hanging up, Kara reveals that she lied and orders her assistant Meg to hide the access card somewhere safe. Next, John calls the CDC team leader for help, drinking his fun powder throughout the conversation. When the team leader calls him, John angrily destroys the screen and sends a message. He will pay $150,000 to whoever kills Derek. Irene points out that since this is a murder, it should in fact there are 450. With 4 hours of virus remaining, Derek and Melanie use Lester's access card to get to Kara's floor, where people are also violently attacking each other. The duo meets Kara, who has a team of staff behind her as bodyguards. Just then, the CDC psychologist calls and tries to reason with Derek, who ignores him and forces Melanie to turn on loud music. Kara stepped aside as Derek gave his employees one last chance to leave, but no one did. A fierce fight ensues, in which Derek and Melanie are completely defeated by the virus, which helps them kill all the employees, pursuing them with ruthless attacks using various tools, and even fire extinguishers. After several minutes of nonstop violence, Derek and Melanie finally entered Kara's office, and Derek placed the scissors on the desk as an indirect threat while also demanding the access card to the top floor. Kara calls a truce, and when Derek refuses, she breaks his glass just to provoke him. Derek almost kills her, but Kara reminds him that she is the only one who can get him the access card. They agree to a truce, and Kara asks Meg to bring the keycard. However, what Meg brought was a piece of burned plastic, and she explained that John knew Kara would betray him, so he offered Meg a promotion in exchange for destroying the access card. Kara and Meg then began screaming at each other until Meg grabbed the scissors and killed Kara. Derek and Melanie then send John a video of Kara's tongue showing him. Since they couldn't go anywhere without an access card, the duo decided to rest. Derek shared that his sister gave him the cup as a gift for being accepted into the company, which is why it was so important to him. He then looks at Melanie's documents and sees that a simple signature from a board member could solve all her problems. He admitted he made a mistake in not helping her and apologized. At that moment, he received a video of John, who appeared to be urinating on Ewan's body. Derek begins to cry as he remembers Ewan having a baby, claiming that his reaction to the virus made the emotions more intense. Melanie felt the same way, and suddenly the duo started kissing, quickly getting dirty. Once they're done, Derek gets an update on his phone from Ray, the IT guy. It's been announced that only the boss is allowed to use the elevator from now on. This gives Derek an idea, so he and Melanie go to see Ray. They threaten him with their tools and force him to hack Irene's computer, which Ray is happy to do because he hates her too. He causes her computer to malfunction, and when she calls for help, Ray gets angry at her before sending her a file. Irene installs it thinking it is a patch to fix her problem, but it is actually a virus that allows Ray to steal all of her information. He puts it on the hard drive before Derek calls Irene to tell her to come get it. Irene desperately asks John for the keycard, assuring him that everything would be fine since she had chosen the meeting place, which happened to be where Colton hid his gun. A few minutes later, Irene met with Derek and Melanie in a closed office, and Derek made sure she had no weapons with her before starting negotiations. Irene reached under the desk and found nothing, so Derek reveals that he took the gun. He uses it to force Irene to give up her access card, after which Melanie asks him to sign her documents. However, Irene points out that she will later claim that I'm crazy due to the effects of the virus, so its signature will be considered invalid. Furious, Melanie uses a hammer to destroy the hard drive and asks Derek for some privacy. Derek tries to leave the room only for Colton to hit him with the door. Irene attacks Melanie at the same time as Derek tries to attack Colton, who easily overpowers him and begins hitting him. He then takes his gun back and wastes his shots on random objects, explaining that bullets are only for cowards before strapping on his brass knuckles. Derek tried to dodge a punch and stabbed Colton with a screwdriver, but Colton didn't mind at all and threw Derek to the ground. He then tried to use his paper spray can on Derek, who caught the liquid in his mouth and sprayed it in Colton's eyes to escape. At this moment, his mouth was burning, so he ran to the faucet to relieve it. Meanwhile, Melanie hits Irene on the head with glass and has an opening to grab her hammer, but before she can attack, Irene reveals that the card needs a passcode to work. At that moment, Derek turned around and asked for the code, so Irene offered to tell him if he would let her have Melanie in return. With only 25 minutes left in quarantine, Derek beat Melanie and tied her to a chair. While Irene prepares the torture tools, Derek gives Melanie one last kiss before leaving. Irene entered the password for the elevator, and before the door closed, Derek smiled, revealing several locks in his hand. It turns out he lifted them out of their chairs while kissing Melanie to free her, and now she comes out to kill Irene with a hammer. On the way to the top floor, Derek remembered everything John had put him through, and his face was filled with disappointment. He walked into the meeting room covered in blood, only for the 9 to receive him with applause and ginseng pint. John offered him a partnership agreement, and his secretaries began listing all the benefits Derek would receive if he agreed to a truce, including some naughty time with them. However, Derek still refused, leading to a secretary attacking him with a piece of broken glass. Derek quickly dodged it and instead killed the other secretary before knocking out the first one with a punch. Then John grabbed his golf club and consumed more happiness powder before fighting Derek, throwing the powder in his eyes to blind him. John hit him with the stick several times before throwing him on the table, trying to strangle him to death. Derek pushes him away and takes a piece from his broken glass to begin hitting John with it, eventually overpowering him. With only a minute and a half to go, Derek held John over the railing and caused the council to vote. Everyone was in favor of John's death, so Derek threw him to the lower floors to kill him. Derek then gathered the remaining 8 members of the board and gave a speech explaining why he deserved to get his position back. When the board agreed to rehire him, Derek finally realized that his sister was right. He didn't have a job, it was his job that made him. He is just another slave. When the board offers to take John's place, Derek accepts, signs Melanie's papers, then resigns. After it was all over, the CDC announced that thanks to the chaos at the law office, they had collected enough test kits to create a vaccine. Derek began spending time painting, and much of his art represents the experiences he went through. Melanie hangs out with him and even takes drawing classes with him. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.